What if you were offered $1,000,000 to fail? To walk into the biggest spotlight of your life, with the whole world watching, and get paid a fortune just to lose. It's a wild idea, but it's the exact rumor that's been floating around one of the most interesting prospects in modern wrestling, Arissa LeBrock, the daughter of action icon Steven Seagal and supermodel Kelly LeBrock. The story that pops up in the corners of the internet is a juicy one. It claims that WWE, wanting to cash in on her famous name, put a 7-figure check on the table for a huge match she was supposed to throw. It's a tale of celebrity, big money, and the smoke and mirrors world of sports entertainment. But like most wrestling stories, that rumor is just the beginning. The story you haven't heard is about a career-threatening injury that almost destroyed her dream, and the desperate phone call from a wrestling legend that changed her entire journey. Today, we're exposing the $1,000,000 myth. We're separating the clickbait from the truth to tell the untold story of Arissa LeBrock's brutal fight to build her own legacy, not with a golden handshake, but with pure grit, pain, and resilience. This isn't the story of a celebrity playing wrestler. It's the story of a fighter. The $1,000,000 myth and its allure. All right, let's tackle the giant rumor in the room, the $1,000,000 offer. Where did a story like this even come from? Well, if you go looking for it from credible wrestling journalists, in interviews, or in official reports, you'll find absolutely nothing. There are no named sources, no backstage reports, nothing to back up this wild claim. It looks like a complete fabrication, born in the depths of internet forums and designed to mash a famous name together with a big, unbelievable number. But you have to ask, why did it catch on? Why does a rumor like this grow legs? Because to a casual fan, it kind of feels believable. Pro wrestling, by its very nature, is a world of predetermined outcomes. It's performance art, a story of good guys and bad guys where the winner is decided long before the bell ever rings. In a business where everything is scripted, the idea of paying someone to play a role in this case, the loser, doesn't seem that far-fetched. And let's be real, wrestling has a long, wild history of celebrity crossovers. From Muhammad Ali and Cyndi Lauper to Mike Tyson and Bad Bunny, bringing in mainstream stars is a proven way to get buzz and pull in new fans. When you have someone with the family tree of Arissa LeBrock, the potential is obvious. She carries the legacy of not one, but two massive pop culture figures. Steven Seagal, for all his controversies now, was one of the biggest action stars on the planet, a legit martial artist known for breaking bones. Her mother, Kelly LeBrock, was a defining supermodel and actress, a symbol of 80s glamour. That combination is a marketing dream. You've got the legit combat sports connection from her dad and the undeniable star power from her mom. So, the idea of WWE wanting to fast-track her and create a huge story around her debut? That makes perfect sense. The $1,000,000 figure just adds that spicy layer of drama that makes the story impossible to ignore. It feeds into the fantasy of wrestling as this larger-than-life world where $1,000,000 deals happen on a handshake. It's the kind of so crazy it just might be true rumor that wrestling fans have loved for decades, right up there with myths like Paul McCartney buying WCW or the Ultimate Warrior being secretly replaced. It was simple, sensational, and tied to names everybody knew. But here's why that whole $1,000,000 story falls apart. You have to understand who Arissa LeBrock actually is, beyond her last name. Being born to Steven Seagal and Kelly LeBrock is a double-edged sword. Sure, it opens doors, but it also casts two giant shadows that could easily swallow you up. The pressure to live up to that, or the temptation to just coast on it, must be intense. But from the start, Arissa was all about carving out her own path. Long before she thought about a wrestling ring, she was making a name for herself in the tough world of high fashion. But she wasn't just following in her mom's footsteps. Arissa became a successful plus-sized model and a powerful voice for body positivity in an industry famous for being rigid. She was on the reality show Growing Up Supermodel, where she was totally open about the baggage that comes with her name and her drive to be seen for who she is. This wasn't someone hiding behind their parents. This was a young woman already building her own brand based on being real. But under the surface, another part of her DNA was taking over, the martial arts gene. And this wasn't some casual hobby for a few Instagram posts. Arissa started training seriously in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. For anyone who doesn't know, BJJ is a grueling, super technical martial art all about grappling and submissions. It's a legit combat sport where your famous name means nothing once you're on the mat. It takes humility, discipline, and thousands of hours of work. Her commitment was real. She wasn't just learning, she was competing. And this is the most important piece of her story. It proves her interest in combat sports was genuine. It shows she has a real athletic foundation that made her an exciting prospect for any wrestling company. She wasn't just a model who thought wrestling looked fun. She was a legitimate martial artist with real grappling skills that translate directly to the ring. This wasn't a celebrity looking for a quick payday. This was a fighter looking for an arena. And in 2019, she got her shot at the biggest one of all. The pivot, the WWE tryout, and the harsh realitas is where the story takes a sharp turn from a million-dollar fantasy to a painful truth. While the internet was spinning tailies of a seven-figure deal, Arissa LeBrock was facing a devastating, career-ending reality. In 2019, she got the call she'd been working for, an invitation to a WWE tryout at their huge performance center in Orlando. Now you have to understand, these WWE tryouts aren't some casual audition. They are brutal, multi-day events designed to push athletes to their absolute breaking point physically and mentally. Dozens of elite athletes, former NFL players, Olympic weightlifters, indie wrestlers, and martial artists all show up in Orlando fighting for just a handful of contracts. They're run through punishing drills, complex in-ring work, and promo classes, all while the top coaches and executives watch their every move. It's a pressure cooker. With her unique look, famous family, and BJJ skills, Arissa was a standout. She had all the raw ingredients WWE loves. The dream was right there, and then it was ripped away. During the tryout, Arissa suffered a major injury. She's kept the specifics private, but it's clear this was no small thing. This wasn't a sprained ankle that would heal in a few weeks. This was the kind of career-threatening injury where a doctor has to tell you that the thing you love, the dream you've been chasing, might be over before it even really started. In an instant, the whole story changed. It was no longer about a celebrity's daughter getting a golden ticket. It was about a promising athlete whose body betrayed her at the worst possible moment. The buzz, the momentum, the opportunity, it all slammed to a halt. There was no million-dollar contract. There wasn't even a developmental deal. There was just the brutal reality of a painful recovery and the crushing uncertainty of what to do next. The WE dream was dead. And in its place, a very dark period began. The truth, the darkest place, and the call that changed everything. The physical pain of an injury like that is often nothing compared to the mental toll. The daily grind of rehab, the slow progress, the fear of getting hurt again, it can break anyone. For Arissa, the dream she had built her life around had vanished. The fire that took her from modeling to the BJJ mats and to the doors of WWE was about to burn out. This part of her life, this is the real story. Not a fake tale of easy money, but a real struggle with loss and defeat. She later described it with raw honesty, making a startling admission. When I got the call from Dustin, I realized that I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life. Let that sink in. It's one thing to be in a dark place. It's another to get comfortable there. That speaks to a level of surrender, a quiet feeling that the dream is over and this new reality of what could have been is all that's left. Her wrestling story seemed destined to be a tragic footnote. The famous daughter who got a shot, got hurt, and disappeared. And then, when it seemed like the story was over, the phone rang. On the other end wasn't a WWE executive with a briefcase full of cash. It was a second chance embodied by a wrestling legend, Dustin Rhodes. If you know wrestling, you know Dustin Rhodes is royalty. As the son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, he has lived this business his whole life. To millions, he's the unforgettable and brilliant Goldust from WWE. To modern fans, he's the natural, a respected veteran and coach in AEW who's still performing at an elite level. He is, simply put, a master of the craft. Dustin had heard about Arissa, her potential, and her devastating injury. He saw past the setback and recognized the fighter that was still in there. He picked up the phone and offered her a lifeline. Pack her bags, move to Texas, and train at his school, the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. That call was the spark. It forced Arissa to face the comfortable darkness she'd settled into and ask herself if she had one more fight left. She said yes. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy isn't the polished billion-dollar WE Performance Center. It's an old-school dojo built on sweat, respect, and a fundamental love for pro wrestling. Here, Arissa wasn't a number in a huge tryout. She wasn't just the daughter of movie stars. She was a student getting personally mentored by a legend who saw her potential. And she went all in. Under Dustin's watch, she began rebuilding herself, not just physically, but mentally. Her BJJ background became the core of her in-ring style as Dustin taught her how to blend that legitimate combat skill with the storytelling and showmanship of pro wrestling. He pushed her, trained her, and became her biggest cheerleader. His belief in her was obvious. In one interview, he spoke about her with the pride of a coach who knows they have someone special, saying, "We're working with a personal trainer, and she's trying to get all her ducks in a row. She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her." Then he made a bold prediction. Pretty soon the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock. This is the real story, the truth behind the rumors. A journey of real resilience over a fake narrative. If you're digging this deep dive and want more stories that go behind the curtain of the wrestling world, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Your support lets us keep telling the stories that really matter. After months of tough, under-the-radar work, the moment of truth arrived. In March of 2023, at a student showcase for the Rhodes Wrestling Academy, Arissa LeBrock made her official pro wrestling debut. This wasn't WrestleMania. There was no sold-out arena, no pyro, no fancy entrance. This was gritty, up-close, old-school wrestling in front of a small, passionate crowd of hardcore fans who know what it takes just to step through those ropes. This was where the real work paid off. The second she walked out, you could see a total transformation. She wasn't Steven Seagal's daughter anymore. She wasn't a failed WWE prospect or a model trying a new hobby. She was a professional wrestler. She had survived the injury, battled the self-doubt, and climbed out of that dark place. She had finally earned that title on her own terms. Since that debut, Arissa has been quietly building her career where all true wrestlers learn the ropes, on the independent circuit, and it's important to understand what that means. This is the exact opposite of a $1,000,000 shortcut. The indie scene is a grind. It's long car rides for little pay, performing in high school gyms and community centers, all for the love of the sport and the dream of making it to the big stage. It's the ultimate test of passion. This is where you pay your dues and earn respect, one match at a time. This is Arissa LeBrock's reality. Not a $1,000,000 payday, but a 1,000-mile journey fueled by pure determination. So, the $1,000,000 offer was a myth. a fun piece of fiction that played on our love for celebrity drama. But the real story is so much better. The real story isn't about being offered a fortune to fail, but about paying a heavy price for just a chance to succeed. It's a story about a woman who could have taken the easy road and coasted on her famous name, but chose the hardest path instead. She faced down a career-ending injury, overcame a period of deep personal darkness, and humbled herself to learn the craft from the ground up under one of the industry's most respected legends. Arissa LeBrock's journey is a powerful reminder that in wrestling and in life, the most important fights happen far away from the spotlight. It's about grit, not glamour. It's about resilience, not rumors. Her story is still being written, and the next chapter is set to be her most exciting yet. She has the family pedigree, the look, the legitimate athletic skill, and most importantly, the proven heart of a fighter who stared down failure and refused to quit. What do you think the future holds for Arissa LeBrock? Could you see her in WWE? Or is she a better fit for the hard-hitting style of a W? Let us know your thoughts and your dream matches for her down in the comments. Thanks for watching.